Well, I've come out today, finished work a bit early. Thought I'd come down and try and do some long exposure photography. I parked up and I'm now I'm on my way down to the new fire station in Ramsgate. It's got quite a nice bit of architecture to it, and I'm just wondering whether or not I can capture a long exposure with a bit of moving clouds, maybe black and white it. So let's go and have a look. I think I've managed to find a composition I like. I've got a circular polarizer on at the moment just to try and bring down the sky, and the lead 10 stop filter, and I'm using the ISO of 50, aperture of f18, and I'm doing it for about 2 minutes exposure, which is coming out quite nice. There's a bit of movement in the sky. I'm going to try a portrait orientation next, I think, but it's not coming out too bad. Well, I think overall I'm quite happy with them couple of images I've got. Obviously I haven't seen them yet, but on the back of the camera they look pretty good. I also wanted to come out and test the new vlogging camera. If you saw my video from the last upload, I managed to damage my previous camera, which was actually a GoPro Hero 4, and I chipped the lens. I did get a lens replacement, managed to swap out the lens, and it's actually done a good repair job and it works fine. In the meantime, I've decided to upgrade my vlogging camera to this, the Canon M50, which I'm now using, which so far I think it's been a brilliant camera. The only downside I've got at the moment is my GoPro had a gimbal on it, and unfortunately at the moment I am using this just handheld on a Gorilla Pod. But if I get into it a bit more, and I'm quite happy, I might invest in a gimbal at some point. When I bought the M50, I also knew that exposure might be a bit of a problem. Now at the moment, if you go by the double your frame rate rule, I am shooting at 25 frames a second, so my shutter speed is actually 1/50th of a second. But in order to keep the exposure, I think I'm shooting at about f16 at the moment, which is fine if you're not too worried about blurring out the background, but I quite fancied being able to do that. So what I actually done was purchased a variable ND filter by a company called Gobe. Again, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. This is a 49mm diameter variable ND. It cost £25 on Amazon, I think it was, and I'm just about to try it out now and just see what it's like. So let me put it on and I'll come back. Right, I've now attached the variable ND, and I've got it set to probably the maximum you can go to. And I am still shooting at 25 frames a second, 1/50th of a second shutter speed, but now my aperture I've managed to get down to the lowest on this lens, which is 3.5. I don't know if you can see any background blur or not, and it's really difficult for me to see on here, but it's managing to control the exposure really well. What I have learned very quickly, and reading a few things online, is you've got to be a bit careful with over polarizing it. So if you watch when I turn this beyond the maximum point, you actually start to get this cross effect, which is where the two pieces of glass are polarizing in some way to cause that effect. So as long as you don't go beyond that point, and you keep it at the maximum but not beyond, I think so far it looks pretty good. obviously I have to wait till I get this home and edit it, but let me know what you think. Do you use any variable NDs, or do you just crank up your aperture in order to compensate it? Well, I'm just on my way now to try and find another composition somewhere, and we'll see how we get on. Walking back through Ellington Park in Ramsgate, and this area is just a raised area down the steps to the bandstand, and I think they're about getting ready to put in a cafeteria and some toilets in the park, which will be quite nice, somewhere to sit and drink. There's much needed in this park. I think it's a beautiful park. Oh, back in the car again now. I debated whether or not to go out today, being as it was like the middle of the day and really harsh sunlight, but I'm glad I did. Those couple of images that I just took at the fire station, like I said before, look pretty good on the back of the camera, so by the time I get home and process them, I'm hoping they'll turn out nice. It's one of them things. I'm glad I pushed myself to go out again, because I wouldn't have had an opportunity to go out tonight. I've been early turn this morning, so I was up at 3, and again I'm early turn tomorrow, so I'll be up at 3 in the morning again for work, so staying up for sunset tonight would have been out of the question. So if I wanted to get out, test the camera and do a couple of images, then it was going to have to be in the middle of the day, and I just thought maybe a couple of long exposures with some cloud moving might be the best kind of subject given the lighting conditions. So let me know what you think, see how they turned out. I've come down now to by King George V Park in Ramsgate. By the time I've got in now, it's really starting to cloud in now. Wind's picking up, but I plan on heading down the stairs down to the sea and just see whether or not I can find an image down on the seafront there. I remember taking a picture before of the lifeboat, or the lifeguard station, beg your pardon, which is quite an unusual piece of architecture. I don't know, we'll see. We're going to have a look. Well, I come down to the lifeguard station at Ramsgate, and as you can see, it's really clouded in, and there's no nice individual clouds anymore. It's quite a stormy, overcast sky, so I don't think we'll get the same effect. I have shot this now. I'll take the image. Took it at ISO 50, an aperture of f/18, which give me an exposure time of around a minute. It's okay at the back of the camera, but yeah, we might be able to do something with it in post. I'll pop it up on the screen now, and you can have a look at it. I now come down to Ramsgate Harbour, or the port of Ramsgate. This is actually the only royal harbour in the country. I'm going to have a walk along the side of the harbour, probably go up now towards Madeira Walk and see whether or not the waterfall up there is running. Maybe try and get a long exposure of the waterfall and see how that turns out today. I've made it here to Madeira Walk and the falls, and nobody's actually put any foam in it at the moment, which is unusual. So take the opportunity and I'm going to get set up and try and do a bit of a long exposure. Maybe we can get 10 or 20 seconds, and then we'll see what that looks like, and we'll take it from there. We should be able to make an image here. I think the 20-second exposure was a little optimistic. What I actually done was put it down to about somewhere between 1.5 seconds and 2 seconds. But you can see by the sky is really bright, and the waterfall itself is quite dark in places, and I'm not sure I could even get it in one exposure. So I've done a landscape and a portrait image, but what I've done is I've bracketed both images. I've exposed for the bottom of the waterfall and then exposed for the sky. And the image that you'll see will probably be an exposure blend of the two images, just to get the full dynamic range in. Well, that's it now. I'm just making my way now back along the cliff top back to the car. Time to go back home, get them on the computer and see if we've got at least one decent image out of this afternoon. But even if I don't get any, it's not been a waste of time. You know, it is nice to get out. Sometimes it just requires a little more effort and a little more of a kick up the backside from yourself to get out, especially, you know, when it's local and you're not away anywhere or you're not on a photo trip. It's just photographing stuff in your local area that you've probably already done. But it is nice to get out, and generally speaking I think you do always tend to find something a little bit different. And you know, weather conditions are always different, the sky is always different, the light's always different, so it is nice to get out there, and even if you take the same image a few times just in different conditions, it's nice to do. But that's it. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please, you know, feel free to like and subscribe and all that stuff, and hopefully I'll see you again soon.